afternoon and welcome to the May 16, 2024 rescheduled work session of the Gaston County Board of Commissioners. My name is Chad Brown. I serve as chairman of the board as well as the commissioner of the Riverbend Township. I would like to welcome our viewers and thank Spectrum Cable and AT&T for making it possible for our citizens. For our television audience, I'd like to present the Gaston County Commissioners beginning on my far right.
Alan Fraley, Cherryville Township.
Good afternoon, Ronnie Worley, South Point Township.
Good afternoon, Kathy Cotter, Dallas Township.
Bob Hovis, Crowders Mountain Township.
Tom Kieger, Gastonia Township.
You changed the page, Jeff.
Sorry.
For our proclamations and commendations, we have our chairman is going to read our first two tonight. The first one will be Police Department and the Sheriff's Office proclamation for this week's recognition of their service to the county, and the second one the chairman will read is Travel and Tourism. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, sir. I will now ask anybody in law enforcement to please make your way over. There's a lot of you back there. Please come on. Obviously, as you guys can see, this is a small group of what protects our citizens. The past couple of weeks have been rough for law enforcement and what has happened across the nation and across North Carolina, right next to us in our home communities. And these guys are the backbone of what we do. This is why we have our meetings that we get to speak. They're the reasons you get to ride around safely in our community. And I want to say thank you to every one of them. I hope you'll go back and tell everybody in our forces and what's going on. We have retired chiefs. We have a lot of people here who this is their life, and their lifeblood, and what they've done is protecting and serving our community. And we don't know how that is because we're the ones who always want to run away when that happens, but they're always the ones running in. So thank you, guys. I do want to take a moment of silence before I read this in respect for the officers, that lost their lives over in Charlotte in the past couple of weeks. And I hope you'll be praying for our law enforcement community. As our law enforcement community means so much to a lot of people, and we try to take it for granted, kind of out of sight, out of mind until we need them. And when we need them, it's at our dire needs that we need them for. So thank you, guys. I'll now take a moment of silence before I read the proclamation. Thank you. This is being presented to Scott, I guess the sheriff is here, Sheriff Hawkins, Chief Zeal, a lot of the other chiefs around our community. Whereas it is important for the people of Gaston County as municipalities to know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of our law enforcement officers and agencies. We applaud the members of those agencies for recognizing their duty to serve the people and by safeguarding life and property, by protecting people against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. And whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officer Memorial Day, and the calendar week of May 15th falls as National Police Week, and honor America's law enforcement community and to pay tribute to those officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. And whereas our nation, more than ever, depends upon local law enforcement as the first line of defense, these men and women of these agencies give themselves day in and day out to preserve the homeland security. And whereas in 2023, 137 peace officers across the nations, 3 from North Carolina alone, died in the line of duty. Whereas the members of law enforcement agencies of Gaston County and municipalities play a vital role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of our local citizens. Whereas we join law enforcement officers nationwide in honoring their fallen comrades and urge Gaston County citizens to commemorate law enforcement officers past and present. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Gaston County Board of Commissioners recognizes Law Enforcement Week and Peace Officer Memorial Day in Gaston County during the week of May 12th through the 18th, 2024, and call upon its citizens of Gaston County to honor the memorial and the memory of the fallen police officers and show appreciation for the dedication of law enforcement officers all across the nation. This to be adopted on the 28th. Chief Zeal and the Sheriff Chad Hawkins to please come and speak on a word.
Thank you, Chairman Brown, and thank you to our board for joining us this week as we remember those officers who have paid that ultimate sacrifice in the service of our community. It was a great ceremony we had yesterday, and I know many of you were present at it, and we certainly thank you for that. I want to go on to say, it's said often that when we put on this uniform and go to work, we don't know if we're going to make it back home. Our families don't know that, and that's very true. But to be able to do that day in, day out throughout the course of a career wouldn't be possible without support. And I have spent most of my law enforcement career working here in Gaston County. And I want to thank you all for showing this department, all of our local law enforcement, the support that you have throughout the years. We greatly appreciate it. It was an honor to have you there at the memorial event yesterday. I know I appreciated it. I know the family of Officer Pendleton appreciated it as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members and citizens. First of all, I'd like to thank our citizens because you really support us. And as I spoke yesterday at our memorial service, that a lot of times we think because things we see on the media that our citizens do not support us. But we know better than that. We know that you're here with us, you support us, and you have our back. And without the trust, then we can't have the relationships. So we really appreciate that. We appreciate everything the Board of Commissioners does for us. We really want to thank our officers and our deputies that go out every single day and do jobs that most people wouldn't dream of doing. So we just ask that you continue to pray for them, pray for us, pray for our commissioners. Thank you, and God bless.
I would be remiss if I wouldn't recognize the class from BLET, if you guys would stand up as well. This is your latest group that will be coming into our forces around our area. And just want to say thank you for your willingness to go and do these type of things. We're very thankful. We're very thankful for the group here and all of your people. So thank you so much. And I will not be the one presenting budget to this. I do have these nice glasses thanks to my great pal Justin. The next proclamation is given to proclaim the week of May 19th through the 25th as Travel and Tourism Week in Gaston County. As you well know, travel and tourism plays a vital part of what we do to work, play, and stay. Their job is to provide entertainment, I guess, not to on that particular level, but they provide a lot of things that we can do and go out and see. So if you guys see what's happening around our community, these people play a vital part of what happens in bringing those activities here. So we will have recreation, enjoyment, and hopefully somebody may stay in a hotel and we can draw their money as well. But just want to say thank you to your group. Whereas the power of travel has been consistent driver of Gaston County's economic workforce. Whereas the robust travel industry provides significant economic benefits for the county with $336 million direct dollars spent in 2022 by travelers in Gaston County. Whereas travel has been the foundation of a healthy workforce, serving as one of the largest private sector employers in the county, supporting 2,200 jobs and 81 million payroll since 2022. And whereas spending by travelers in Gaston County has aided state and local governments alike, generating $22 million in tax revenue and in 2022 to support essential services and programs. And whereas travel and tourism dependent businesses and organizations, 83% of which small businesses, welcome visitors from all around the world to explore Gaston County and our county and everything our county has to offer. Whereas Gaston County travel and tourism attracts leisure and business travel, as well as meetings and events by both domestic and international visitors. And whereas travel drives a robust Gaston County economy and workforce, whereas the power of travel drives Gaston County and moves us forward to a more prosperous future. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Gaston County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through the 25th, 2024, as National Travel and Tourism Week. This urges citizens to join in recognition and the critical role in this industry plays in Gaston County. This to be adopted the 28th day of May 2024. Michael Applegate, the Director of Travel and Tourism, will now say a few words. Thank you so much, sir, for what you do and your staff. If you know, this staff is they're pushed to the limits of a lot of things. COVID really was a burdensome time for what happens because you guys are here to see people come, not people put masks on and try to separate. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for your dedication, and I'll turn it over to Michael.
Thank you, Chairman Brown, and thank you, Commissioners. And yeah, during COVID, actually our outdoor recreation brand served us well because the one thing people could still do during the pandemic was get outside as long as they were safely distanced from one another. So we actually rebounded pretty quickly, and the industry's been performing well. I did want to thank the board for all the decisions that you've made. I've been here 8 years, and it's really flown by. And that's because there's always something new and exciting happening in the destination. There's always some new piece of property that the county comes into possession of that we're developing plans on to activate, like the South Point boat launch, like the Catawba Cove property. All those things just keep us excited and enthusiastic about doing our job every day. And I'm joined by 80% of our small but mighty team, and I'd just like to take a moment to introduce them. Jennifer Easler, Emily Carpenter, Melissa McCauley, and Elizabeth Utic from our Tourism Advisory Board. So thank you for your service on that board. And I'd also like to say, just in closing, that I am the son of a deceased Boston police officer, so it's really neat to accept this recognition right after the police officers. We so appreciate your service. And my dad went to work one day when I was 8 years old and didn't come home. He suffered a brain aneurysm walking his beat. And I'm the only male in my family who's not a police officer, but I chose to serve the community in this way. So we appreciate what you do, and we certainly see county government as a form of service, and we love what we do, and thank you for letting us do it.
Thank you, Michael. I want to tell you guys, if you guys have not seen one of the latest attractions that's happened in Gaston County, please take off down South Point Road all the way to the very end. You'll see the new latest activity that will happen in Gaston County. Will be all the boom. We'll be talking about it. But if you want to know what this group is known for, they have the best shoes in the business, all of them. So thank you.
You want me to go ahead, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, please. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Mark Lamfair. Oh, you already up. What's that? Come on up here a little bit. Are you the only one here today? Okay. Guess all your guys are on the street. But anyway, some of the same statements of the other first responders, the police and sheriff's department. You know, it's a good possibility if anybody in Gaston County is in an accident or an injury Mark or one of his team members are going to be there to show up to help you possibly save your life. And that means a lot when the time comes. Anyway, I will read this proclamation to proclaim the week of May 19 through 25, 2024 as Emergency Medical Services Week in Gaston County. Whereas emergency medical service is essential public safety service, and whereas the emergency medical services system consists of physicians, nurses, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, law enforcement officers, telecommunicators, and others, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency medical care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas emergency medical services personnel engage in countless hours of specialized training, continuous education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas the Gaston County Emergency Medical Services System is a leader in EMS in North Carolina. And whereas the residents and visitors of Gaston County benefit daily from the knowledge and skills of those highly trained individuals. And whereas it's appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of emergency medical services providers, perhaps now more than ever, by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Gaston County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims the week of May 19 through 25, 2024 as Emergency Medical Services Week in Gaston County, and call upon all of its citizens to observe this period with appropriate events, programs, and activities to be adopted this the 28th day of May, 2024. Thank you, Mark.
Yes, sir.
Got a few words you'd like to say?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Fraley, Commissioners, by the way, anybody who's not working today is at training. I left there to come here, but on behalf of all the first responders of any agency in the county, as well as our EMTs and paramedics, we thank you for this recognition. It's a job that most people tell us, I would never want to do that job, you know, so it takes a special person. So thank you very much.
The next proclamation commendation will be the proclamation to proclaim the month of 2024 Treatment Court Month, and Commissioner Kieger.
Adrian and Chief, like to join me, please? I'll get right to it. Whereas, according to All Rise, treatment courts are the most successful intervention in our nation's history for leading people with substance use and mental health disorders out of the justice system and into lives of recovery, stability, health. And whereas, there are now more than 4,000 treatment courts nationwide, with Gaston County having a recovery court and veterans treatment court. And whereas treatment courts are the cornerstone of justice reform sweeping the nation, and whereas treatment courts have transformed the way the justice system responds to people with substance use and mental health disorders by combining accountability with evidence-based treatment. And whereas treatment courts annually refer more than 150,000 people to lifestyling treatment and recovery support services. And whereas, according to All Rise, treatment courts significantly improve substance use disorder treatment outcomes, substantially reduce addiction and related crime, and do so at less expense than any other justice strategy that we know now. And whereas treatment courts facilitate community-wide partnerships bringing together public safety and public health, and whereas treatment courts demonstrate that when one person rises, we all rise. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Gaston County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaim the month of May 2024 as Treatment Court Month in Gaston County, and that too will be adopted later this month. And I guess I'll present it to Adrian. You want to say a word or two? I hope you do.
Good afternoon. I just want to express to the board and to the community truly, the team really does appreciate the support as we get ready to, I know Veterans Court has been in operation for a little while, District Attorney Page is here, and we are just relaunching our adult treatment court, and we have other team members from treatment and the Public Defender's Office here. We're grateful for the support, and we're looking forward to making a difference in the community this way. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now ask to call on Vice Chairman Hovis to do communications through proclamation to recognize June 19th as Juneteenth in Gaston County. Mr. Hovis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like if Ms. Letitia White, the Executive Director for Health Carolina, will come and join me. And anyone that would like to come with her, you're more than welcome to come. Please do. Whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January the 1st, 1863, declaring the slaves in the Confederate territory free, paving the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas word about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed for some two and 1/2 years to June 19, 1965, in reaching the authorities and the African Americans in the southern United States. And whereas the celebration of the end of slavery, which became known as Juneteenth, is the oldest known public celebration of the end of slavery in the United States and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 150 years. And whereas Juneteenth commemorates African American freedom and celebrates the successes gained through education and greater success, and reminds each of us of the precious promises of freedom, equality, and opportunity, which are the cornerstone of the American dream. And whereas the first Juneteenth celebration was a time of reassurance, prayer, and the gathering of family members and neighbors, and today it is a time of remembrance and celebration within communities throughout the country to promote and cultivate knowledge and appreciation of African American history and culture, while encouraging continuous self-development and respect for all people and all cultures. Whereas Gaston County is proud to celebrate this historic day for the 4th time, it is excited to join the 6th annual Juneteenth celebration on Saturday, June the 15th, 2024, at Juneteenth Health Fair at the Highland Health Center at 609 North Highland Street, starting at 10 a.m. At the Juneteenth Parade in downtown Gastonia, 3 p.m., and the Gastonia Ebony Fest Juneteenth Festival at the Rotary Pavilion in downtown Gastonia. And at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, June 19th, the Gastonia Ebony Fest Juneteenth Festival at 6 p.m. with vendors, food, speeches, and fireworks at the Rotary Pavilion. Now therefore be it resolved that the Gaston County Board of Commissioners, on behalf of Gaston County, do hereby declare June 19th, 2024 as Juneteenth in Gaston County, and encourage all citizens to join in celebration of this day of significance in the history and the heritage of our nation and country, to be adopted on the 28th day of May, 2024 at our next voting meeting. Thank you so much. And please speak.
Thank you to our commissioners. Thank you so much for making this acknowledgement. My name is Tasha White. I'm a lifelong Gastonia resident. I love my community, and I'm so appreciative. We have with us today community partners, committee members, vendors, and who am I missing? I think, and definitely just full of support for Juneteenth. We thank you all so much for this acknowledgement. And in the words of Dr. Opal Lee, who is known as the grandmother of Juneteenth, she says from June 19th to the 4th of July, we celebrate freedom. So I want this to not be a black holiday. This is a community holiday. Please come out and help us celebrate. From June 19th to the 4th of July, let freedom ring. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It is a great pleasure for the Gaston County Commission to honor citizens who have unselfishly given of their time, talents, and skills, energies, and service as an appointee to one of our many boards and commissions. This type of service is the foundation for the citizens' involvement, and our county government is helping shape the future of our community. We gratefully acknowledge the work of the following individuals, and a certificate of appreciation has been forwarded to them. James Brown, Bobby Cash for the Gaston County Fire Commission, Dee Dee Gillis for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the elected officials in the room, Register of Deeds, Ms. Susan Lockridge, the District Attorney, Travis Page, the Mayor of Dallas, Haley Beatty, and our Sheriff, Chad Hawkins. So I wanted to welcome you guys and thank you guys for coming out. Didn't miss anybody, did I? Travis is the only one that needs to be working. I want to take a few minutes to recognize some additional proclamations for the month of May. These proclamations will be adopted on the 28th of May, and signed proclamation will be forwarded to the departments. The Clerk of Boards for the County Commission Week, obviously Ms. Donna, taking good care of us and her staff. Foster Care Awareness Month, Older Americans Month, and Motorcycle Awareness Month. And those will be forwarded on to those departments and or groups. The next item on the agenda Yes, we had one sign up. I'm sorry, I was trying to get to that page. Citizen recognition. Our next item is citizens recognition. A portion of the board's agenda is set aside for the purpose of allowing citizens the opportunity to offer comments and suggestions. This comment period is not intended to require the commission or staff or answer any questions or provide a response today. Questions requiring a response shall be answered as soon as possible through the county manager's office. Citizens recognition will be limited today to just one person. As I call your name, please step to the podium. Ms. Ashley Anderson. If you'll just state your name and address for the, as you get to the podium, please, ma'am. And you can use the business address if you need to.
So Ashley Anderson, I'm with Special Olympics of Gaston County. I know some of you all in the audience or commissioners, and we don't actually have a business address, so I'm going to give my address that we use for our organization, which is 61 Central Avenue, Gastonia, 28054. And I'm actually going to let my colleague start our quick and brief presentation, what we would like to present you all with and offer a suggestion.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Lindsay Waldron. I'm Vice President of Community Resources for Special Olympics North Carolina. I did want to thank the law enforcement that is here in the room for all of your support that you give back to Special Olympics North Carolina. Very much appreciated. Thank you for having me. I did want to just give you a brief overview. Special Olympics North Carolina serves right at 45,000 athletes across the state of North Carolina, and we are broken up by county, and roughly 43 of our programs now across the county are run through their local government, meaning through a Parks and Recreation Department. And Gaston County is still run strictly by just a volunteer, and that's Ashley Anderson here. And I think that it shows a lot of value to look at offering Special Olympics through Parks and Recreation, because we are an inclusive sports organization that provides sports opportunities, 20 sports year-round for those with and without intellectual disabilities. So I'm going to turn it back over to Ashley to just talk about what all she has done here in Gaston County, which is absolutely amazing what she does as a volunteer, and the amount of your community members that are impacted by the work that she does with Special Olympics.
Okay, thanks, Lindsay. All right, so we wanted to propose some support for Special Olympics of Gaston County in terms primarily of potentially adding something into the budget through Parks and Recreation or another part of county funding for a position for Special Olympics Gaston County. We currently serve over 700 athletes with and without intellectual disabilities here in our county. And when many people hear about Special Olympics, they think it's just one-day event, or they think that we, only serve athletes of a certain age, but that's not true. Again, we serve over 700 athletes all the way from age 2 to 99 or 100. We also offer a lot of things that are in addition to just sports programming. We have athlete leadership activities. We have an athlete leadership committee, and unfortunately we couldn't bring an athlete with us today to speak on our behalf. We also have a lot of social opportunities for our athletes, and everyone who is involved in Special Olympics in the leadership role, everyone is a volunteer. So as Lindsay was stating, it would be really beneficial going forward, I think, for the longevity of our program to be able to invest in some type of funding or support in a role that would continue to ensure that Special Olympics Gaston County is, being productive and successful here in our county. We work with every public high school and all of our schools in the county. We work with Parks and Recreation. We work with the city to offer a lot of events. So we have a lot of awesome partnerships. We're just primarily trying to continue to always grow that. So I do have some flyers for you all, and if anybody would like these, I can place them wherever it would be best for you all to get this. This has our primary contact on it, and I would like for you all to, if you're interested, just take a look at this and let us know, what questions, or if we could, have a discussion in the future, that would be wonderful. We're always up for offering information, so.
If you'll please just hand those to Mr. Gobb over here, the
Yes.
gentleman with the big camera.
Perfect.
As you guys exit, and that'd be the best way to get that disseminated to everyone.
Awesome. Thank you all
Thank
so
you.
much. Yes.
The next item on the agenda is presentations of the recommended 2024-2025 Gaston County budget. Dr. Kim Eagle, Gaston County Manager, will now be the presenter of the Gaston County budget recommended for 2024-2025. Dr. Eagle.
Good afternoon, Chairman Brown, members of the Board of County Commissioners, county employees, and residents. It's an honor and a privilege to serve as your county manager and present my recommended budget for fiscal year 2025. I remain incredibly grateful to my team, our directors, our budget team, and to you for your leadership and support throughout this entire process. The total recommended budget is $420 million, and the general fund portion of that is just under $340 million. A budget is a plan, an estimate for a set period of time. The steps we took to balance this budget in order to give maximum relief to taxpayers is unique. The level of effort required to absorb inflationary costs, continue to provide adequate service levels while reducing revenues is possible for FY25, but is not sustainable as a standard practice. I am recommending a tax rate of 59.9 cents per $100 of assessed value. This is a 1.1 cent decrease from the current rate. This budget maintains a conservative fiscal approach and achieves 3 of your goals. First, the recommended budget funds only programs and initiatives that align with the Board of County Commissioners' priorities. Second, it funds only the county's core critical services and programs. And lastly, the budget absorbs unprecedented levels of inflation while lowering the tax rate for the 5th time in 6 years. So this afternoon, I will first provide an overview of the recommended budget and then give the numbers some context related to economic and population growth. Increases in service demands and inflation will also be discussed. Then I will go into more detail about the general operating budget and 5-year capital budget before sharing information about the path forward. In addition to this presentation, you all have a copy of the recommended budget book at your seat, which provides a significant level of detail about everything we will cover today. In my time as serving as your county manager, the budget theme has transitioned from responsiveness to resiliency, coming out of the pandemic and facing economic uncertainty while restoring in-person services, to readiness, preparing our organization to face existing challenges with an eye on the unpredictable future, to responsibility, following a revaluation process that saw massive growth in our tax base, which brings us to the FY25 theme of resourcefulness. This underscores our commitment to strategic resource allocation, aiming to minimize the impact on Gaston County residents while ensuring essential services are maintained. This theme emphasizes efficiency and prudent management to achieve optimal outcomes for our residents. As I mentioned earlier, I'm recommending a 59.9 cent tax rate. This is a 1.1 cent decrease from the current rate of 61 cents. Capturing growth in non-property tax revenue sources like sales tax and investment earnings allows us to absorb mandatory and inflationary increases in personnel and operating expenses while reducing the tax rate and not appropriating general fund balance. In terms of personnel, I'm recommending 2 new positions, neither of which are funded by property tax dollars. I will elaborate on those positions and other significant personnel needs that go unfunded later in the presentation. The recommended budget provides a 1% increase in operating allocations for both Gaston County Schools and Gaston College. No increase in capital allocations and includes funding to fulfill all debt service obligations, including new school debt that we are in the process of issuing. This budget also marks the 3rd year of implementation of the 5-year CIP. As I mentioned earlier, the recommended budget is $420 million for all funds net of internal transfers. The general fund makes up 77% of the county's budget and will be the primary focus for this presentation. The Community Investment Fund, or CIF, accounts for 12% of the budget. The revenue flows into the CIF and then is transferred out to the capital and debt service funds to pay for county debt service, school debt service, and capital allocations, and the county's capital projects that are over $300,000 each. A breakdown of revenue and expenditure for every fund can be found in the recommended budget ordinance at the end of your budget document, beginning on page 98, as well as on the fund summaries that begin on page 16. When I started in this role nearly 5 years ago, I identified the areas that needed improvement and the resources I needed to make these improvements. While some of these areas are still opportunities for improvement, there are other areas such as budgeting practices and financial stability where we have made tremendous progress. We are no longer a small county. We cannot operate like one. Being the 9th largest county in the state requires sophistication and forward thinking. These are the guiding principles that frame this budget process. First is to maintain sound fiscal policy and stewardship. Second is to deliver competitive services. Third is to diversify revenues and encourage development. And fourth is to prepare for growth through investment in infrastructure. Now I want to take a moment to recognize some of these significant accomplishments made over the past year. County Clerk Donna Buff won both a Women Who Rock Award and the Clerk of the Year Award from the North Carolina Association of County Clerks. The Communications Office won the department's first top national award for curators, cats, and canines, done with animal care and control, and the County Museum of Art and History. It also won 3 first-place state awards this spring for its annual report, Savvy Citizen podcast, and for its photography work. Our Register of Deeds, Susan Lockridge, and the recently retired county employee and former County Commissioner Pearl Blurs Floyd both were honored with the induction into the Order of the Longleaf Pine. GEMS and Public Health helped distribute more than 13,000 opioid overdose reversal kits, thanks to funding from the General Assembly. The Gaston County Housing Rehabilitation Program was awarded by North Carolina Housing Finance Agency at the organization's Affordable Housing Awards in Raleigh. The county's housing rehab program has completed work on more than 100 homes in Gaston County since its inception, utilizing over $2 million in grant funding. This improves the lives of low-income residents. State and federal studies show that for every dollar spent in housing rehab, it saves $19 for taxpayers for every dollar. Officer Jeffrey Thompson and Officer Jonathan Pullen were recognized for saving the lives of students at the schools where they serve. Major ADA renovations to the Veterans Services Office were completed, and the office reopened to the public. The Gaston County Museum of Art and History announced a groundbreaking gift of 250 works by Gastonia native John T. Biggers from the Hazel Biggers Trust, one of the largest single collections of works on paper from the significant 20th century artist. And lastly, a new Community Support Services office opened on Long Avenue with the January 30th ribbon cutting. The county is currently on a 4-year revaluation cycle, with the most recent process completed last year. Prior to revaluation, our appraised values were only capturing 69% of market value. Post-revaluation, we captured 97%. This allowed us to adopt a tax rate of 61 cents, below revenue neutral. The graph on the right shows our reduction in the tax rate since FY20, when Gaston's rate was 84 cents following the 2019 revaluation, compared to our surrounding counties. As you can see, Gaston has had the most significant reduction in the past 4 years compared to our peers. The tax-based growth has allowed us to cut our tax rates significantly, and along with population growth, we have seen a growth in county service demand. I will quickly add just a few highlights of this growth that many of our departments are experiencing. The bottom line to this information is that our employees have been continuously strained for the past several years. This is a graph showing the average hours per week that GEMS units are running at full steam. Overtaxing our EMS units contributes to longer response times, employee burnout, injuries, and is in conflict with best practices. GEMS aims to reduce the frequency of high unit hour utilization to no more than 17 hours per week, as represented by the yellow line. The current state, shown in orange, peaked at an average of 104 high utilization hours per week in 2022, with a slight reduction in 2023. Turnover. Burnout is not just an issue for GEMS, it infects our entire county. Of the 1,528 employees who have been hired at the county from 2019 to 2023, only half of those are still employed with us. The turnover rate of this group has increased by 1% from the previous year. This is a list of additional examples of county growth and growth in service demand. EMS dispatches increased by 112%. Landfill waste tonnage increased by 17%. Food and nutrition services cases increased by 33%. Building and development services inspections have increased by 43%. And residential electrical, mechanical, and plumbing permits have increased by 73%. And this is for the time period from FY19 to FY23. Currently, fleet maintenance is operating at 139 vehicles per technician, where the industry standard for cities and counties is between 55 to 60 vehicles per technician. Fleet maintenance is also responsible for servicing approximately 700 vehicles, trailers, and other equipment across our county. Our human services areas are feeling the impact of growth as well. This graph shows the rate of children aged 0 to 17 in DSS custody per 10,000 children for the past 10 years. The rate of growth has grown by 85% from 57.3 children per 10,000 in 2013 to 106 in 2023. Despite significant increases in service demand, we have managed to keep our per capita spending low. This graph shows a 10-year history of expenditures per capita when adjusted for inflation. We are spending slightly less per capita compared to 20 years ago, from $1,700 per citizen in 2004 to just over $1,500 in 2023. Meanwhile, the county's population grew 27% from 2004 to 2023. The bottom line is that we are doing more with less, a lot less due to inflation, and demands are increasing. These are some general fund highlights. As I mentioned earlier, I'm recommending a $340 million total general fund budget. This is a 5.6% increase from the current year's budget. For more details on the budget drivers compared to the current year, please see the budget message located at the beginning of your book on pages 1 through 10. More than 3/4 of the general fund budget goes toward human services, public safety, and public health. This graph shows revenue sources for the general fund budget. Taxes, including property tax, sales tax, and other taxes, make up 75% of general fund revenue. Property tax revenue is the county's largest and most stable revenue source. 2 property revaluations and positive natural growth in between have allowed the county to cut its tax rate by 26 cents in just 6 years. The current tax rate on 61 cents is the lowest since at least 1970. This revenue is projected using a total assessed value of $34.3 billion. The total assessed value, including any projected appeal loss, is multiplied by an estimated collection rate, 99% for this budget, and the 59.9 cent tax rate to equal the estimated property tax revenue. Sales tax revenue is traditionally more volatile than property tax revenue, but it is now the county's second largest revenue source. We continue to see growth in sales tax, although at a slower rate. Sales tax is distributed on an ad valorem basis, meaning the size of our tax levy determines the proportion of revenue we get compared to municipalities. If we continue to reduce our tax rate while towns hold theirs flat, we receive a smaller portion of the sales tax revenue. We have traditionally been very conservative when budgeting and projecting for sales tax. However, it is necessary to capture potential growth in this budget in light of previous and proposed tax rate cuts and projected decreases in the property tax revenue. User fees are set based on the actual cost of providing the service to our residents. The recommended budget continues the fee methodology approved by the board in March of 2021. The recommended fee schedule begins on page 103 of your budget book. This graph shows projected general fund expenditures by function. More than 3/4 goes toward public safety, human services, and education. For personnel, first I want to highlight the graph on the right. The number of employees per 1,000 county residents has decreased as our population has increased. County staffing levels have not kept pace with population growth. Despite the serious needs that I will discuss on the following slide, I am only recommending 2 new full-time positions, neither of which are funded with property tax dollars. First, I'm recommending 1 assistant fire marshal position for emergency management and fire services. This position is fee-funded and will address the backlog of fire and life safety inspections, among other needs for the department. I am also recommending 1 digital media coordinator for tourism development. This position is 100% funded by occupancy tax revenue and will work to capture video content, manage ads, and enhance social media performance for tourism development. A total of 147 positions were requested this year. This is a record high. The sheer number of requests, both this year and last year, signal the significant needs that are going unfunded each year. The position request highlights several county needs that aren't unique to one department or one functional area. The first area of need is interfacing with and providing support and services to the community. Additional BLS units are needed at gyms, both for coverage and to maintain and preserve the response capabilities of the paramedic units. County police requested several positions to address increases in overdose and overdose deaths, increases in internet crimes against children investigations, SRO staffing needs, and an increase in ACE calls for service. The Medicaid case manager positions granted last year were based on the initial projections from the state of 10,300 additional eligible individuals for year 1 of Medicaid expansion. The actual volume is much higher than initial projections, which is happening across the state. In addition to Medicaid expansion, there is a surge in the Haitian population impacting both social services and public health service provision. The next area of need is utilizing technology to streamline operations. Tax requested a new position due to the uptick in new construction, subdivisions, and deed transactions. The growth of the real property market directly affects the mapping division due to plats for new subdivisions, deed transactions of regular real property sales, and the splitting and combining of parcels. This also impacts Building and Development Services, who requested a GIS manager position. The library requested a technician to manage 78 staff computers and 117 public computers, including upgrades, e-content resource changes, troubleshooting, library vendor support, and library patron support. The position would eliminate downtime for patrons and increased training to bridge the digital divide. All the needs described, as well as existing countywide data initiatives, directly impact our IT department, who requested a data manager position. The final area of need is taking care of existing resources and infrastructure while planning for the future. As mentioned earlier, the county's fleet has grown by 27% from FY20 to FY24. In that same time, no new positions have been added for the fleet division. Public Works requested 2 positions related to project management. With ARPA and congestion mitigation air quality grants and other grant projects, in addition to taking care of aging infrastructure, while planning for massive future projects like the public safety campus and courthouse updates, the department is managing more projects than ever. You have a complete listing with explanation in your book of all of the unfunded needs by department, and you can see those totals listed there on the slide. County departments for years have operated under tight operating budget conditions. This year's no different. For example, we routinely have reduced discretionary spending by delaying needed software that would make our operations more efficient. We have also reduced training opportunities that would make our workforce more efficient and effective, and we have cut down on the number of office and printing supplies needed to run operations. We have taken these steps in order to make it possible to absorb the non-discretionary inflation increases. This graph shows some examples of these non-discretionary expenses, such as professional service contracts, fuel, and parts, and compares these increases to the changes in the tax rate. Public education operating allocations are the county's single largest operating expense. These tables show the allocations I am recommending for Gaston County Schools and Gaston College compared to the current year funding and their FY25 request. For Gaston County Schools, I am recommending a $500,000 increase in operating allocation, which is a 1% increase from the current year, and a flat capital allocation. This increase in operating allocation is intended to be used for teacher supplements, which the board has funded since 2014. In addition to these operating and capital allocations, the county funds salaries and benefits for school resource officers, the Commissioner's School of Excellence program, and debt service obligations for debt issued on behalf of the school system to fund large capital projects like school construction. For Gaston College, I am also recommending a 1% increase in operating allocation and a flat capital allocation. I'm recommending approximately $65.5 million in CIP projects, $60 million in projects to be funded with new debt issuances, $4.4 million in funding for county pay-go projects, and $1.1 million for projects at the landfill funded through the enterprise fund. More detailed information about the CIP process and the projects being recommended can be found beginning on page 33 of your book. The recommended projects represent investments in 4 areas: facilities maintenance, repairs, and new construction, replacement of existing equipment and new equipment or vehicles, land acquisition, design, and planning services, and economic development, land acquisition, and infrastructure improvements. How do the recommended CIP projects fit into the Community Investment Fund model? As shown here, all revenue flows through the CIF and is transferred out to separate funds for capital projects and debt service obligations. The total revenue projected for FY25 is just over $51 million. This funds debt service and capital projects for both the county and the school system. As I've done every year in the past, again, I have future work items that are in line with our guiding principles that I would like to share with you. The first area is maintaining sound fiscal policy and stewardship. In June of 2023, Moody's upgraded the county's rating from a AA1 to a AAA. It is imperative that we maintain this rating as we move forward with the next issuance of school bonds. The county does seek to improve its AA+ rating received in April of 2019 with Standards & Poor's. The next area is deliver competitive services. We will continue to pursue productive and efficient service delivery and maximize public resources through peer reviews, benchmarking, analysis of data and trends, and restructuring how public services are offered. We will assess, evaluate, and improve support services to the most vulnerable in our community. We will continue to monitor the opioid crisis and implement opioid settlement funds. And we will continue to evaluate countywide policies and update them as needed. The last area is investing in infrastructure. We will continue to review existing and planned infrastructure investments, including future water and sewer lines, and preparing for the public safety campus to ensure consistency and good stewardship of our natural and fiscal resources. And we will investigate available land for a future business park. Now that you have received my recommendation, we have 2 remaining steps in the budget process. The budget document will be available for public review on our website and in person at the main library in Gastonia and in the county administration facility in downtown Gastonia beginning tomorrow. We have scheduled the budget public hearing and budget adoption for May the 28th here in the Gaston County Courthouse at 6 p.m. during our regularly scheduled business meeting. Finally, as you all know, budget preparation takes a lot of time, energy, and hard work, and I would like to say thank you. I'd first like to thank all of you as county commissioners for your input, your guidance throughout the process. It has been tremendous. I greatly appreciate your insight and support, and I look forward to continuing our dialogue throughout the coming year. I would also like to thank our wonderful budget staff. If they would please stand and be recognized. They have put in a tremendous amount of hard work, late nights. They have tremendous ability to analyze really complicated data. And they are small, but they are talented. Thank you so much. You're the best in the state, and I thank you. A big thank you is also owed to our budget contacts that work in each of our departments. They are in constant communication with the budget staff, finance, and HR, and they work to ensure that every department is well managed and the directives and policies from my office are carried out fairly and consistently. I'd also like to sincerely thank Finance, Human Resources, and IT. They provide expertise that is invaluable. They operate as support departments, and that's what they do, and they do it really well. They support us through this process, and they're patient. Finally, I would like to thank the employees in our great organization. Thank you for all you do to make Gaston County an excellent place to work, live, and play. Thank you for providing excellent public service every day. That is the conclusion of my recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. Now that we do have the budget as the recommended budget, we will take it home and gloss it over, and we'll get back individually with the manager and her staff to do that. So she'll be calling you in the coming days, or you guys can set up how you wish to go over what you've seen today and what we've been able to recognize as that. I wanted to thank you, Dr. Eagle, the Globs, the girls of the budget staff. If you guys don't know them, thank you guys so much for doing what you've done. It's been a great pleasure to be able to work with you guys. And I know Dr. Eagle, like she said, we do have the best staff available going forward. A lot better than those guys to the other side there. But wanted to thank everybody for their input on this budget, since it has been a long, tedious process as we continue to grow as a county and continue to do great things. So thank you for your recommended budget, Madam Manager. With that, I did miss one. Mental Health Awareness Month is also being presented a commendation this month as well. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. Jonathan alerted me to that, Donna. I missed it. So thank you, Jonathan, for your Mental Health Awareness Month. Also, the next item on the agenda is other matters. So it's going to be a lot. Oh, sorry. I'll go to Bob Hovis now for the FY25 proposed funding for the fire tax.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As this board's liaison between the Fire Commission, I'd like to preface this brief report with a couple pieces of information. Our fire staff has worked diligently with our volunteer fire departments across the entirety of Gaston County to hammer out new contractual agreements that meet the safety needs and the property needs of citizens in Gaston County. We've made tremendous strides in revamping things since we've gone to the unified fire rate. We've gotten great feedback from the volunteer fire departments, and good communication has moved us to where we are today in bringing most of this information before you in terms of understanding how we are going to approach the unified tax rate for 2024-2025. Previously, or last year, we set a rate at 0.085 cents per hundred in the unified tax rate, and that meant all the VFDs worked on a singular rate instead of having separate rates in individual jurisdictions. That moved us forward. We're actually projecting a 2025 revenue at this rate of just over $9.5 million, and that kind of gets us a few things. The recommendation that the Fire Commission is sending to you in this budget is 11.5 cent fire tax rate. And it has some major changes, and I'd like to highlight those. We go to the next slide. Thank you, Matt. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm still looking at mine. It was fixed. The next slide is the 11.5 cent proposal. And this creates universal funding for staff for all departments. Previously, we've only had staffing at volunteer rates. So if you had 5 people to show up at a fire, if you had 2 people to show up at a fire, that's what you had. This particular 11.5% proposal changes everything at the VFDs countywide. It allows 2 paid employees at each VFD 24/7. And this change is necessitated because of the change in the dynamics of volunteerism, not just in Gaston County, not just in North Carolina, but in the entire Southeast. We used to have industry who supported volunteer fire departments on a daily basis. Their maintenance staff, whenever a fire alarm went off in their particular community, those people could pick up their stuff and leave for a fire, and they would continue to be paid on the job that they were working for. And at the same time, whatever stipend they received as a volunteer firefighter, they received that as well. And a lot of those people, the companies bore their training costs back in the day. The world that we live in today, we don't have those types of industries. And a lot of that was the textile industry. And with that change, it's augmented and changed everything. Plus all the requirements that our firefighters be first responders, much like our GEMS crew, much like our police departments. All of that dynamic has only increased the requirements of qualifications and certifications and training. So with that, the Fire Commission is looking to create the new model. And we're not the only individual county that's looking at this. This is actually part of the best practices that's being looked at across the entire state. But we're looking at this using our unified rate to create a minimal level of staffing. It will still be highly reliant on our volunteers who possess tremendous amounts of knowledge about the equipment, their area, the specialization of buildings in their jurisdiction. All of that is part of what I call the intellectual intelligence of the people who have served this county and this region for so many years. This funding is going to give us a much better response and not be so reliant on volunteers and let our volunteers fill in the gaps otherwise. We still look to them tremendously for funding, and this budget, the increase in this is 87% of this increase goes to that staffing component. This will decrease our response times, it will increase our services, and also allow us to improve our training, because this paid staff will totally meet the training criteria, and we can do some train to trainer and do other things to make our operational efficiencies better. This increased operational and maintenance and fuel costs will be driven by this as well. It also establishes and defines a consistent level of service delivery. and provides for recruitment and retention of staff. One thing not listed on the proposal there is we have created a minimum a rate, a standardized rate for volunteer firefighters in addition to our paid staff. That the county has not had that. The VFDs pretty much did that at their own discretion, and we found out that Jimmy was borrowing from Sally, and Sally was borrowing from Paul, and we just had a whole, everybody was changing hats. This will allow all of us to compete equally in that market and hopefully equally in the market around us, because we actually have quite a few people who are on our county VFDs who are employed full-time firefighters in Charlotte, because Charlotte has a huge fire service. It will continue to bolster education and training, and one of the things that the Fire Commission has done is work to provide an understanding of the closest station response, and we're continuing to work through those details to figure out which VFD department can better serve what areas, and if there's an overlap in those areas, we're working towards making those changes and renegotiating that with our VFD so that we have a much more cohesive deployment of firefighting services. This is no small increase. We're basically moving from $9.5 million to $12.9 million in total funding, but this protects the people and the property in Gaston County and ensures us that we are transitioning to where that will be have longevity and be sustainable as we move forward. That is the Fire Commission's proposal to the board and to the manager from staff, and I just wanted to be the person to share that with you, since I have been the person in the meetings trying to work through the trenches and understand what's needed. And if the board wishes other information, we'd be glad to have the entire Fire Commission present at your budget session. They'll be there. I see one or two that may be here with us. I see Chief Hunter and Assistant Chief and another member of the Fire Commission here as well that are here today, but we can do whatever we can to address those, and we'll be having a Zoom meeting next week to try to finish up some of the details of the individual budget amounts to the VFDs, trying to make their requests, which totals some $14.3 million, to fit within this $12.9 million cap of the 11.5 cent fire tax rate. Does anybody have any questions of me?
Commissioner Keeger.
I don't have any questions of Bob, but thanks for doing all this work. I know it takes a lot of time and effort to get down in the dirt with these things, but I do want to address staff, I guess. Every one of the budgets from all the departments that we fund have given management their recommended budget. The manager's team comes up with what they actually recommend themselves. Okay, this going up 3 cents, that's what their board decided. I'd like staff to look at that and give us a recommended amount. And I look back, I understand that, if we need this, we need it, period. But I'm looking at the process. And the sheriff and the police department, which are also very critical to the community safety, of course, their utilities, their maintenance, their gasoline, all these things have gone up also, yet they're getting a reduction from what they've recommended. And I'm just saying that instead of just automatically giving what their board is requesting, I want staff to look at it and, recommend that to us if that's the case.
I'd be happy, Commissioner, to look into the information and provide some feedback.
Okay. And if it's needed, like I said, it's needed. But then again, the other two safety areas, they said they needed it, and yet we were able to cut something. So I think you get my drift.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anyone having questions of Commissioner Hovis from the fire issue? Seeing none, anybody having questions that they wish to bring forward right now before we move to the next piece? Seeing none as well, I will go to other matters. I will call on Vincent Wong, Public Safety Manager. He's going to give us a brief update here in just a second, but I wanted to, before he gets into that, well, I'll wait till afterwards, because I guess what I'll do is piggyback to that as well. So, as you guys know, last week was a tremendous strain for what we had in types of government. Just to give you a rundown of Vincent will give you a storm damage update of what's going on, and then I'm going to give you a different piece of the puzzle. So, Mr. Wall.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. Last Wednesday was a hard day for Gaston County, with 2 EF1 tornadoes striking multiple communities and damage from high winds and hail occurring nearly everywhere. As you know, one person lost their life and another was injured. Yet, given the direct impact we took from the storm, these totals could have been much worse. What we did experience was bad enough. Trees and power lines down everywhere. Roads blocked, nearly half the county without power at one point Wednesday evening. Everyone involved worked tremendously hard. Just 48 hours after one of the most destructive storms in recent history struck our county, power is back on for more than 95% of our residents and businesses, with the remainder getting completed this past weekend. Just to give you and our residents of all the folks who immediately stepped in to help, we had our own public safety agencies in the county, staff from our communications office, Parks and Rec, Finance, Natural Resources, Public Health, Social Services, Tax, Public Works, Solid Waste, Fleet and Building Inspections, and all of the police, EM, and GEMS, including the 911 operators. That's in addition to the hundreds of municipal staff from essentially every town and every city in the county and departments, including our fire departments, along with state and private companies. With the immediate danger behind us, our focus quickly turned to damage assessment and recovery. What's happening even as we speak is crucial to our ability to apply for state and federal funding. Our dedicated staff has been actively engaged in conducting damage assessments since the occurrence of the storms. Teams comprising of Gaston County employees have been deployed to map and document the extent of the damage inflicted upon the homes and businesses. On Tuesday, May 14th, the North Carolina Emergency Management Assessment Team visited our county to assess and verify the damage for both state and federal purposes. They have met with our county staff and will be continuing their assessment throughout the remainder of the week. Their expertise and collaboration are valuable as we work towards a comprehensive understanding of the aftermath of these storms. To date, we have identified more than 300 structures with damage, and more than 100 of them had major damage or have been totally destroyed. This work would not happen without a great team and tremendous support from Dr. Eagle, our board, and our community. And I want to especially thank those that I mentioned earlier, all of our employees and the public safety staff involved in the response and recovery for our citizens. I'm proud of the collective effort of everyone demonstrated in serving our community during these challenging times. We're still going through our assessments. We know people have questions. So just as yesterday, we opened up an email called gastonincidentinfo@gastongov.com, and it's on our website and our social media. Once again, it's gastonincidentinfo@gastongov.com for people to send us questions, and we'll try to get responses to them as soon as possible. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And all that's happened in that emergency response, people ask what emergency response is like in Gaston County. And I want to add, the numbers that I'm getting ready to give you does not include a firefighter, doesn't include a law enforcement officer, the sheriff's office. It includes the other people that help. 246 individuals were made up and comprised of what happened for an emergency of what we had. But it doesn't say the work that was done. And I want to say from my spot and this board, thank you to all of you. There's pages upon pages of names. Every fire department in Gastonia, every volunteer fire department, were all involved in assisting and helping and aid, along with our law enforcement, along with our emergency medical services, sheriff's office out doing work while this was going on. Not just while it was over, not just while, this was cutting of trees and helping people and doing so many things. And, we were fortunate that it didn't last a very long time, but we're still, the effects will last much longer. And I want to say thank you. I have a group of individuals, and there's 5 pages of the people who helped, and that doesn't include the municipalities and what happened in Dallas. Thank you, Haley, for your leadership over there and what we were doing, to the help of the sheriff, to Chief Zeal, Mark, all of you guys, because you're in the brunt of it. You were the ones who we called, and that's why that happens. And when we call, you guys respond. You always respond. And that's the greatest thing about sitting at this dais is you guys always respond. Gaston County does not know what it's like when you always respond, when you call 911 and there's someone there to pick up the phone. Because I can tell you, I haven't seen a day that it was that dark during the daylight hours in my lifetime. So I know what I felt, I know what you guys were experiencing in this board, so I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to everyone, and each person who's on this list will receive a certificate from this board about your services for that day. That doesn't take away from the people who were actually doing work in a different department or what you were doing. It means we're a family. We're going to do it together, and it doesn't go unrecognized for what happens, because this is a real team effort when something like this happens. We're very fortunate that things didn't, I don't want to say they got worse, but we had Mark Lamphere and his staff gave birth to a little baby girl during that. So that tells you the impact of sometimes you just don't make it to the hospital. Mark couldn't make it because a tree fell in front of him when they were trying to respond. But luckily enough, we had a different way in, and those people were able to aid and render a life at that time to be able to come onto this earth. So those are the things that when you sit up on this board and we have to get budget requests that nobody likes. I mean, I guarantee you, other than the globs, I don't know of anybody else who likes doing budget stuff. But this is what this county is about, and I am very thankful. Last week was a turning point. Other than Jonathan's driving, Chief, you need to take him back to school. Maybe Sheriff can teach him some things. But it's funny now how the things we look at, but it was a disaster here, and people just don't know how bad it was inside of our community. So I'm very thankful. This board is very thankful for what we've seen and been able to. Commissioner Hovis and I were over to emergency management and said, Scott, thank you. It's an undertaking. It was chaos, but you guys handled it like it was just part of another day. The pizza was all right too, by the way. So, but I say that to say thank you to all our staff. Thank you to our employees. Thank you to the ones who have to protect and serve, not just in a capacity with a gun and a badge, not just with an ambulance with a siren, not just with an emergency medical service that gets to go around and you wonder, what is that truck for? It's every one of you. This budget is why you guys exist, because we want to make sure that we understand the things that are going on and how we can work to make the citizens of this county have everything they've ever wanted, from recreation to work, play, and stay. It doesn't happen without you, and trust me. So as we look into this budget and we get to go after it, obviously people will be disappointed. Some people will get different things, but what we're trying to do is make sure that we secure what's happening for our community, to make sure that we give you the less burden to your pocketbook, but also the most bang for your buck on public safety and the things you can do. So Dr. Eagle, thank you. Thank you, Donna, for you guys. John, that's the cog that makes it work to the left, and Bob too, because you're to my left. But to the right, I say thank you as well. But I mean, it's for when you sit in this position, it is the phone continues to ring, and I can call on any one of you, and you'll pick up and you will answer the call to our people and our citizens. So I am very grateful for that. I would be remiss before I leave. Where's Brian? Come on up here, Brian. Janet, Taylor. While y'all are coming, Commissioner Hovis has something to say.
As we move into the analysis of the budget and the public looks at the budget, I had asked staff to go through and filter through the information that we have in the budget as it exists today. And there are increases in here that we label as non-discretionary. In other words, the county has no control over those items. It's associated with state things. You know, we have a lot of intermingled funds and things that go like that. So when you take those dollars out, this budget has like about a 5.2% increase in the total from the prior year. And the 7 of us are charged with managing the growth of government. You've already heard Dr. Eagle explain that there are very few new personnel additions, or virtually no one personnel addition that's being funded by the fund balance. But as we look at and understand how we're comparing this year to next year, it's important for us to understand what that effect is. And this is about a 5.3%. If you look at bottom line number, just pull it down to the bottom line. Last year's total versus this year's total is about a 5.3% increase. In reality, those non-discretionary increases that we have no control over, that none of the 7 of us can touch, is over 6%. So in all reality, we have a 0 increase budget that we can affect. And that is important for the public to understand. We're not up here taking your tax dollars and handing them out like Skittles. We never have. This board has moved us from, we're not taking fund balance to balance the budget to make us look good and to keep an artificial tax rate propped up. We've done the real work in these last 4 and 5 years without question, and it hasn't been easy, and we understand that. We know what staff has done. We have asked the hard questions, but I want the public to understand that this budget that Dr. Eagles recommended, it's not approved yet. We've got to do some more filtering and look at. But basically, it is a flat budget in a year where all of us have seen unprecedented inflation. I know in my small home with just my wife and myself going to the local grocery store, it's every week it's just another shocker, and it's amazing. We're not talking about the cost of eggs. We're talking about everything else. It used to be everybody got all bent out of shape about $5 for a dozen of eggs. But it's not that. It's all the rest of that has caught up with the egg prices. But this board is cognizant of what your tax dollars do, and it's our responsibility, and will be mine until I am no longer on this dais, to understand that. And I apologize for my speech, but I want everybody to know that's another part of this. Thank you.
And we thank you. I brought you 3 up individuals. If you please come to the front here. There's a reason why. It's time for embarrassment time.
Stand on the electrodes and we'll light you up.
I'll turn my microphone off. Tomorrow is a very special day, May 17th, for every one of them. We won't ask which one of you was born first, but happy birthday all. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear staff. Happy birthday to you. The reason that we try to do these type of things to staff is to let them know that we care about you. And we try to make fun. Justin brought me some woman's glasses today. So if y'all are wondering what's going on, I can't see anything with these. But thank you guys, and thank you guys for allowing us a little bit of time. This concludes our work session for tonight. Our next regular meeting is Tuesday, May 28, 6 p.m. here in the Harley B. Gaston Public Courthouse Forum. We will be holding a public hearing that evening to receive citizens' comments for the FY25 budget, and we will consider adoption of the budget at that time. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please remit those to Donna S. Buff at 704-866-3196. Good night, Globs.